In this video, I'm going to show how you can take Markdown produced by OpenAI or another LLM and then convert it to a PDF in your Bubble app. So in this example here, what we're doing is we're taking some data, which is in this case just someone's name. We're sending this to OpenAI. It's going to return some Markdown, and I've asked it to create a CV and return that CV in Markdown. We're then going to display that Markdown here, convert it to BBCode, and then generate a PDF of that. So you can see here, this is the Markdown returned by OpenAI. This is the BBCode that we're converting it to. And then if we open up our PDF, we can see we have our nicely formatted CV based on all that. Just to show you the CV data type that I've created here, we have three simple fields. We have the name, which is the person who's generating the CV. We have Markdown and we have BBCode, all of type text. So what we're going to do is we're going to build out a workflow that is triggered when we click on this button. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new thing. The thing is going to be a CV. And for now, we're only going to set one field on it, which is the name, which is going to be equal to input your name's value, which is this here. We're then going to send this name along with a prompt to OpenAI. So you can really use whatever LLM provider you want, but in this example, I'm using OpenRouter, and I'm going to change that API key after this video, but I'm going to use the chat completions endpoint provided by OpenAI, and I'm using that via OpenRouter. Quite a simple body that I'm sending. I'm specifying a model, which in this case is GPT-4 O Mini. I'm giving a system prompt, which is basically saying you are generating a beautiful CVs for software engineers, provide Markdown, you'll be supplied with the engineer's name, but feel free to include whatever information you want outside of that. Do not provide a title like Markdown at the beginning. I've just found that sometimes it can actually add Markdown to the title. And then the idea is that the engineer will actually enter their name there. So that's going to be the second step in our workflow here. We're going to go to OpenRouter, send message, and the message we're sending is simply the result of step one, its name, because I suppose the core of the message is really in the system prompt itself. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the response of that and we're going to display it as Markdown, first of all. So this is called group output Markdown. And you can see here, I've set it as type text, and I'm simply displaying the parent group's text in this text element. So back in my workflow, I'm simply going to say display data in a group pop-up. The element is going to be group output Markdown, and it's going to be the result of step 2. Choices, first item, message content. That's basically the content that's sent back by OpenAI. So let's test this out. I'm going to put in a name here. We'll create our Markdown. Okay, and you can see here, this is Markdown that basically represents a CV. You can see they've added in some stuff about education, projects, some other good stuff as well. And it's all good stuff, but it's not really anything we can use in a Bubble app in terms of displaying it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to convert this Markdown to BBCode. We're then going to be able to display that BBCode, and it's going to look like a proper CV as opposed to just this kind of awful looking text here. I'm going to use another plugin for this. There's a bunch of plugins on the Bubble plugin marketplace that allow you to convert Markdown to BBCode. I'm using this one here, but take a look around and see which one fits your needs. Back in my workflow, what I'm going to do now is I'm simply going to use the action that comes with that plugin, which is convert Markdown to BBCode. And all it takes is the result of step 2. So again, this is our response from OpenAI. We're getting the choices, first item, its message content. And once we've retrieved that, we're going to display it in a group. So we're going to say display data in a group pop-up, output Markdown, output BBCode, I should say, and then the result of step 4, which is that conversion. So this time, if we create our CV, we should see both the Markdown and the BBCode groups getting populated with the CV, but I'm hoping this one's going to look a lot better than our raw Markdown. And you can see that's looking pretty good. You know, we have our URL links there, we have different sections. So this is something that you might actually be able to use in a PDF or some other way. So what I'm going to do now is, you can play around with the system prompt if you want to get different versions of this, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a PDF of the output CV. And to do that, I'm going to be using DocuPotion. And the way DocuPotion works is you need to go to the plugins tab of your Bubble editor, install DocuPotion, and then you need to add an access token to these fields here, the access token live and the access token dev. So I'm just going to go over to DocuPotion. I'm going to register for an account here. And once I've registered, I can get my access token by going to the My Account section, clicking on the Generate Access Token button, and then copying that access token to my clipboard, going back to my Bubble application, just pasting that in there, and also in there. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new page in our Bubble app. I'm going to call mine simply CV PDF. I'm not going to clone it from anything. And let's say I want to create an A4 sized PDF of this CV. And if you look at the DocuPotion dashboard and go to the docs, there's an article here on recommended dimensions for creating PDFs. And if I want to create an A4 size PDF, I want a 794 pixel width. And then depending on whether or not it has dynamic content, I might set a min height or a fixed height. I'm not actually going to do that in this case because we don't always know how long a CV is going to be. It's probably going to be between 1 and 2 pages, but I'm happy to set the height as being unset. So what that means in reality is I'm going to grab a group. I'm going to change the container layout of the page to column. I'm going to call this group CV container. As mentioned, I'm going to set the fixed width to be equal to 794 pixels, and I'm going to let the content take up the full height of the page. I'm going to set a background color on the page itself, just so you can see the contrast, and then I'll put a white background on the actual CV group. Perfect. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the page, and I'm going to set the type of content on it to be equal to CV. I'm also going to rename the page because that's just going to be in the PDF name to saying CV. And then I'm going to put in a text element. I'm going to let it take up the full width and height, or as much as it needs to. I might just leave that actually there for now. And then the type of content on this group is going to be equal to CV. The data source is going to be the current page's CV. And the text here is going to be equal to parent group CV BBCode. I'm now going to go back to my create CV page. And this time when I create a PDF, or when I create a CV, I should say, at the very end, I'm going to go to a page. It's going to be the CV PDF page. And I'm going to send the CV that I'm creating here in step 1. I'm opening that in a new tab just because I want to be able to show both pages. Let's refresh. Let's call OpenAI and get our Markdown converted to BBCode and then send that data to our new page. Okay, so nothing's showing up here, but it is showing up here. So that's obviously a problem. So let's take a look and see what's going wrong there. If we go back to our CV PDF page, take a look at that. Current page is CV, parent group CV BBCode, and if we go into our database and look at CVs, you can see we're not saving down the BBCode or the Markdown to it, which is of course an issue. So if we go back to our create CV page, and then we say before displaying the data, what we can do is we can add in another action before it. We can once again make changes to a thing. Thing is going to be result of step 1. And this time we're going to change BBCode is going to be equal to the result of step 4. It's BBCode. And the Markdown is going to be equal to the result of step 2. Choices, first items, content. So let's try that one more time. Once again, calling OpenAI, getting our Markdown, converting it to BBCode, and then showing that on a new page. And that's more like what we were looking for. Not completely happy with the spacing, and can also see that this is running on. So we always need to increase the height of the page itself. So what I'm going to do to fix that is back on our CV PDF page. Let's first of all make the height a bit higher. Let's say a min height of 2200. And let's put some padding here as well. So let's put padding of 24 pixels throughout. And let's try that one more time, and then we're going to actually generate the PDF itself. Okay, you can see this time we have Tom Smith. That looks a lot better. And you can see there's plenty of space there as well. Okay, now let's figure out how to create our PDF. And because we've installed DocuPotion, what we can do is back on our Create CV page, I'm going to get rid of this Go to Page. And instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a PDF. This is an action that comes with the DocuPotion plugin. And there's so many ways we can customize our PDF with DocuPotion, but I'm just going to go through the key ones at this time. The first one is the website home URL, and this is really simple. You just need to put in dynamic expression website home URL. The page name needs to be equal to the name of the page in our app that we're creating a PDF of, and that's going to be, in our case, CV PDF, CV-PDF. The identifier, so this is going to be something unique that identifies this PDF, and what I usually recommend in these cases is to just use the unique identifier associated with whatever thing you're creating. So I'm going to say result of step 1, it's unique ID. File name, we'll leave that for now. And then callback URL is really important for the users to be able to access it, but we're going to come back to that in a minute. Okay, let's generate our PDF. This time, let's put in another name. Doing quite a bit in the background here, and I'm actually going to show you a UI tip in a minute, just to let your users know that something is happening and not have them wondering if this load bar here is just going on forever. But we'll give this a second. Okay, we've displayed our data again, and we obviously haven't seen any PDF be downloaded in our browser, but something actually has happened in the background. If I go back to my data tab, and if I go to File Manager, and if I wait for the search to complete, you'll see here that actually is a new file called My File, and it is the 12th of August today. If I open that up, we're actually getting a blank page at the moment. And the reason is we have created a PDF of that page, but we haven't told DocuPotion what data is going to be on it. Because at the moment, DocuPotion is just taking a PDF of the CV PDF page, but because we haven't specified the dynamic data, it's not getting populated. Really easy to fix. All we need to do is on the Create PDF action, at the very end of page name, we just simply add in, and I keep forgetting the name of that page, CV PDF, and then at the very end, we put in the unique ID of the PDF type. So let's try that again. Refresh. Put in Sam Altman. Create a PDF. Just to show you something is happening here in the background, if we refresh our DocuPotion dashboard, you'll see here we have started to actually use the PDFs. So that's going to change to 2 in just a second. But let's let this workflow run. Okay, and if we go back to our file manager again, click on search, you can see we have a much bigger file this time, which is a good sign. And you can see there we're getting our CV. I don't love that kind of continuous text there, not really any space at the top. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go back to my create PDF action, and I'm going to put in a margin on the top bottom of 12 pixels. Now that's a good start, but we obviously want the user to be able to access the PDF. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my backend workflows, and you will need to be on a paid bubble plan to use backend workflows. And I'm going to create a new API workflow. I'm going to call this endpoint get underscore PDF. I am going to expose this as a public API workflow because what's going to happen is once DocuPotion has completed the PDF generation, it's actually going to send a webhook to this backend workflow, which is a way of saying, look, PDF has been uploaded. Here's how you can access it. So for now, I'm going to run this without authentication, but we are going to come back to that in a minute. And then I'm going to add 2 parameters. The first one is going to be ID of type text, and the second one is going to be link, also of type text. These fields must be spelled exactly as I'm showing you here, so please do not change them. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make changes to a thing. The thing I'm going to change is do a search for all CVs. I'm only going to change the first one, but I'm going to use a constraint here to specify which one I'm changing. And I'm going to change the one where the unique ID is equal to ID. Because what's happening in the background here is, you might remember that identifier field that we use on the create PDF action. DocuPotion knows that, and it's going to match that with this here, and then it's going to know which field or which CV entry in our database to update. So what we're going to do is we're simply going to change a new field, because I'm conscious now we haven't actually added a link field. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to add a new field called link. It's going to be of type text. And then in our backend workflow, we're going to say link is equal to link. Okay, and I'm conscious here we have an issue, which is filling out that callback URL. I'll come back to that in a second. It's actually going to be the next step anyway. And let's create a PDF of our CV once more. And let's take a look at our database this time. And you can see here for the most recent entry in our database, we don't quite have that link field. So I was expecting to see a link linking to the actual PDF there. So let's figure out why that didn't happen. I'm going to go to my server logs, and I'm going to search for all workflows run in the past 2 minutes. And of course, it was that callback URL that I didn't think of. Okay, let's go back to our create PDF action, because the mistake I made was I created the backend workflow that was actually going to attach the link to the CV, but I never actually added this to the backend workflow, and that's what's going to tell DocuPotion, you know, what URL to hit or what backend workflow to hit. So really easy to add this in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the settings tab of my bubble editor. I'm going to go to API, and then I'm going to drag and copy this workflow API root URL. I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to paste that into callback URL. And then at the very end of this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a / and then the name of the backend workflow that we created, which in our case was get underscore PDF. And then just to make life easier for yourself, what I always recommend is just taking everything from API here, deleting it, and putting in website home URL. That's because Bubble will then know whether it's the live version or the test version, and you don't have to worry about that. So hopefully that's fixed that issue. Let's try that again. Create a PDF of Jeff Bezos's CV. And let's go to our database, and you can see this time we do have a link. So let's open that up, and let's just take a look at that here. And sure enough, we're getting Jeff Bezos's CV. I'm actually really impressed with the OpenAI endpoint. You can see he's putting information specific to him there. You can also see that margin at the top of the second page has worked a bit. So yeah, that's looking pretty good, I think. So what you could do with this is, if you wanted to, you could actually send this to the user via email. What you could do in your backend workflow is just add in another action here saying send email and then link it to that link. What I actually want to do in this case is open it up in our browser. So what I'm going to do is, back on our create CV page, is I'm going to go to workflow and I'm going to create a new custom event. And it's going to be called CV generated. It's going to take a single parameter, which is going to be a CV of type CV. And what we're simply going to do is we're going to download a PDF. And the PDF is going to be equal to CV's link. And the file name is going to be equal to, let's just say, my CV. And then we want to trigger this custom event, but only after the PDF has been generated. And Bubble actually gives you a really nice way of doing this. And if we just go here, what we can do is we can say trigger a custom event when data changes. So we only have one custom event, so it's automatically chosen CV generated. But the thing we want to watch is the CV that we're creating in step 1. And we're basically saying when the link field changes, basically when it updates from blank to actually having a link, then we're going to trigger that custom event. So let's try that out now. Okay, give it a second. We can see everything has appeared here. We haven't gotten our CV in our browser yet, but there you go. So if we open that up, we're now getting a PDF of our CV. One last thing I want to mention before I wrap this up is security. So this backend workflow here, you might remember I said you can run without authentication, but that's not ideal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, look, it does need to be authenticated, but the way I'm going to authenticate it is by going to the API section again. I'm going to get this API token, which is a really sensitive piece of information, so do be careful with it. I'm definitely regenerating this after this video. And then I'm going to pass that through to DocuPotion in this API token for authenticating backend workflow. And I'm going to do it in the dev version as well. That way, even though we have said, look, this workflow must be authenticated, we're still going to get our CV. Let's do one final example. Okay, we've got Warren Buffett's CV there. It's looking good. If we open it up, what we'll see is we're getting that, and it's worked even when we said it must be authenticated. So that is one thing on security. And then one final thing is actually relating to the UI, because at the moment there's quite a gap between when the user clicks the button and the CV is generated. And I'm just not a massive fan of the default bubble load bar. So what I like to do sometimes is go here, and on this workflow, what I'm going to say is I've actually built into the design tab here this PDF loading screen floating group. And what I like to do sometimes is, just as the workflow is kicked off, I'll show it. And then when it's finished, which I know is going to be finished when the CV's been downloaded, I'm going to hide it. So yeah, just a way of kind of dealing with the long loading time that can happen if you're calling an external API and converting it and then generating a PDF. It's just one way of doing it. There's definitely a bunch of approaches, but you can see in a second now, okay, we've got all our Markdown and BBCode, and the PDF has been created, PDF is downloaded, and then the loading screen disappears. So that's just another UI tip. So hope this has been useful. That's how you can convert Markdown to a PDF.